Hello, I'm Dr. Missick. I want to talk about the outcome of this primary election. And we have a great victory, but for me, a defeat. Let's look at the victory first. Ernest Bales has been in office for 8 years. The whole time he's been supporting Colony Ridge. He's been voting liberal in Austin. And first we had Emily Thibodeau Cook because he had a very bad record on abortion, and he's got a liberal voting record. This isn't my opinion. This is from Rice University Analytics. It's his voting record, the voting record that he created. So Emily Thibodeau Cook ran against him, and she fell short. Unfortunately, she fell short. And then a couple of years ago, Janice Holt and me and another man named Bubba Toulos ran against him. And Ernest Bales had about 55% or so of the vote. So he's been very, very difficult to defeat, even though he's harming this House district. He's harming Liberty and San Jacinto County. And but let's look what happened. I feel like I made an important contribution because what has happened is 60% of the voters on March 5th, on Election Day, voted against Ernest Bales. And this is my voters and Janice Holt's voters. So let's look at what happened. You have the incumbent, Ernest Bales, got 38% or so of the vote. So he's defeated. Janice Holt got about 51% or so of the vote, and I got 10%, around 10% of the vote. And I want to thank God for this victory, and I want to thank the voters for supporting me and getting involved. And as I said, I attended all the debates. I had a lot of limited resources. I feel like I ran a good campaign, and I enjoyed it. I wish I could have done more. Maybe I could have done more, but I feel like I did a good job. I did the best I could with my limited resources, and I appreciate people out there who voted for me, the 10% of the people who voted for me, but also the people who encouraged me various ways and saying that they like me, they like what I said, they like my performance in the debates, but they decided for strategic reasons because Janice Holt is more financed and she has more of a chance of winning, they thought, so they voted for her. So this is a clear-cut victory. And Ernest Bales, his political career is over. And that's something to rejoice about. What about him and his feelings? I want to mention that Ernest Bales helped John and Trey Harris to grow Colony Ridge to what it is today. Ernest Bales admits that Trey Harris came and brought to him pre-written legislation that he made minor corrections and modifications to. The HB 4341 that granted privileges and protections and empowerments to Colony Ridge, that was legislation that was created by John and Trey Harris and by Ernest Bales, supported by Senator Nichols, State Senator Nichols. So this disaster, and on top of that, now Ernest Bales, I'm really surprised that he helped create Colony Ridge, and then now that it became a issue in the campaign, he just lies about it. So I don't have anything to do with Colony Ridge. And the thing is, it's like either what's going on in Colony Ridge is by design or he's incompetent. He's not able, because he's not representing the interests of the citizens or the desires or the wants or the needs of the citizens of HD 18. So the citizens made their voice heard. And I want to mention that this victory, which I feel like I made important contributions to, I feel like it's a fact that this 60% that voted against Ernest Bales includes my voters. And I think through my involvement and campaigning against Ernest Bales, I talked to Janice and I said, I want to win. I'm on the ballot. She's like, well, why don't you just throw your supporters behind me? And it's like, well, I'm on the ballot. I'm a choice to people. I want people to know who I am, what I stand for. But I said, Janice, I'm going to tell you this. Our objective is to defeat Ernest Bales. That's my goal. I'm not interested in campaigning against you. I think that my primary goal, yes, I want to win, but the primary goal is this: what the people in this House district need, and that is to defeat Ernest Bales. So I get along with Janice just fine, and I want to mention that there's some serious character issues with Ernest Bales. During a debate, he insinuated that this is several years ago. He insinuated that Emily Kibidoo Cook, who ran against him unsuccessfully, was a prostitute. And this time, he doxed Janice Holt. He took some personal information, her personal cell phone number, and put it on his mailouts. And it's really awful. He's calling us liars when hasn't been telling the truth. And this, I want the viewers here to understand, this is a great accomplishment. This is a great accomplishment that we made, because in this House district, I've campaigned twice, and I know in Cold Spring, Shepherd, and Cleveland, there is a cult-like following of Ernest Bales. It's bizarre because I don't see the appeal. I don't understand why people have this mindless devotion to Ernest Bales. And I was being nice to people. I was talking to him. It's like, well, here's his left-wing voting record. Bomb, 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 bomb. This is a Republican primary. We need to have a Republican candidate, don't we, to represent the Republican Party? This is a Republican primary. This is what we should have, as somebody that represents his constituents. And he votes liberal. He votes Democrat. And these people, or it's like, what about this cartel activity here? It's out of control. Crime and violence spilling out of Colony Ridge, endangering the citizens here. And you tell these people this, they say, well, I know his mama. He's a good old boy. I'm voting for him. And so what about your kids? I'm voting for, that your kids could be shot, cartel activity, some drive-by or something, or fentanyl overdoses. We have kids every week at this high school overdosing for fentanyl. Well, he's a good old boy. I know his mama. His kids play soccer with my kids. I'm voting for him. What about his pro-abortion record? Well, this is his voting record. I didn't create it. They're supporting him, and I took a bold stand campaigning against him, and so did Janice Holt, and we won. This is a loss for me. And like I said, when I was campaigning and talking to people, a lot of people say, well, I attended all the debates. I feel like I won all the debates. And people told me they thought I did a good job, and they encouraged me. It's like, you did a really good job in that debate. And there were people saying, I would vote for you, but Janice Holt has more funding. Janice Holt has endorsements. She has more possibility to win. And the objective we have is getting rid of Ernest Bales to save our House district. And we did it. Ernest Bales served 8 years. That's long enough. He has his company. He's a man of means and wealth. And he brought this defeat upon himself by betraying his constituents. He did it. And he's made personal attacks on me. Lately, he's been accusing me of vandalizing his signs. I have not vandalized his signs. I have not asked anybody to vandalize his signs. I have not encouraged anybody to do that. It has nothing to do with me. I didn't do it. He has this grainy picture he claims is me. It's not me. But one of the motivations I had to run this time was after I was defeated and he was reelected during the last primary, not this one, the one before. I just get back focusing on kingdom work and the church work, and with the Ministerial Alliance and other pastors, we were doing prayer walks at the schools. And I was doing a prayer walk. I was walking the halls, talking to teachers, praying with them, talking to them, trying to get to know their concerns. This is in Cold Spring. And a Bales supporter called the police on me. And then they dragged me out of the building, and these police officers surrounded me and were trying to provoke me into a physical altercation so that they could assault me, arrest me, and or shoot and kill me. Why? The first thing these officers said when they arrived and they took me outside was, why did you run against Ernest Bales? And I didn't allow them to provoke me into an incident. I was shocked and confused by what was going on. And I think that I was very insulted. They were accusing me of being a terrorist. That was Bales' people saying, oh, he was at January 6th. He's on the FBI most wanted list. They're making all these accusations against me. And like I said, it's obvious they're trying to provoke me into a physical altercation so they could assault, shoot, or arrest me. So I wasn't going to stand for this. I went back to confront this issue. It's like, what was I doing? We were having just a prayer walk. We were invited to participate in this to show that the local pastors support our schools and support our teachers. and you drag me out of the building and make all these accusations and threaten me. And so I go in this officer's office, and he has Bale's campaign material all over his walls and on his desk, and it's like, what's going on here? And then I realized just the depth of this bizarre Ernest Bale's cult and what we're up against. And I realized I felt threatened, I felt at risk, and I felt like I had to campaign to defend myself against these just extraordinary and extreme attacks against me. So it's very troubling, very disturbing. And besides, like I said, this is a Republican primary. We need to have a Republican candidate. And the biggest issue facing our House district right now is Colony Ridge. And I'm going to talk to Janice Holt about this, because she started campaigning on Colony Ridge too. And it's like, are you going to follow through? There's a lot that could be done right now, because Colony Ridge is in violation of code. Their failure to abide by the code endangers our entire community. I mean, they're pumping human waste into our creeks, rivers, and streams. It's a flood zone, an artificially created flood zone that's flooding all the way down to Kingwood. They're poisoning our drinking water, and the roads are already failing. It's not built up to standard, and it's endangering the people that live there, and it's endangering the greater community. And we need to have somebody, like I was talking to somebody when I was campaigning, one of these Bale's cultists, and I said, well, what about Colony Ridge? Well, it's not Bale's fault. It's like, what do you mean it's not his fault? He wrote this legislation. I said, what do you mean it's not his fault? He created this legislation that granted these special privileges on Colony Ridge to enable it to grow to what it is now. It's 70,000 people there now, and Ernest Bales is intending to grow it to 250,000. And it's like, well, I don't care. I know his mama. He's a good old boy. I'm going to vote for him. But I said, look, you're saying it's not Bales' fault, even though he passed legislation to support Colony Ridge. But if he is a state representative, if he's not going to represent our needs and interests against threats and things that are endangering our community, who is? State representative. He should represent us and take a stand against these corrupt brothers, John and Trey Harris. Near the end of the campaign, it seemed like Janice Holt started campaigning against me, not directly, not by name, but by issues. I served on the border, the entire border from Brownsville to El Paso for 4 years. I know the border issue is the most important issue we face. So she got the National Border Patrol Association to endorse her. After the governor endorsed her, they make phone calls, they give her all the endorsements she wants. So she got all these endorsements. And the governor came into the community here. The governor came to campaign for her 3 times. He campaigned first in Lumberton, and then in Cleveland, and in Liberty. So that helped her a lot. But probably what got her over the finish line and hurt me was when, in the end, I'm the MAGA candidate. She's not MAGA. I'm the big Trump supporter, but Trump endorsed her over me, probably because he got a phone call asking him to. I'm sure he's not really tracking this House district as well as he should. Plus, he's made a lot of, or some bad endorsements before. But the fact of the matter is that Janice Holt is a better choice than Ernest Bales. And while I was out campaigning, someone said to me, it's like, really, I lost this election. Yes, I had a good campaign. I enjoyed it. I feel like I won all the debates. This is a very good experience for me. But I don't see me running again. And someone was saying, well, what if Janice Holt turns to Ernest Bales, or another Ernest Bales? What if she's, well, the difference between Ernest Bales and Janice Holt is Ernest Bales is a straight-up Democrat who runs the Republican ticket. Janice Holt is an establishment Republican, while I'm a conservative firebrand. And I want to mention that a lot of people told me they thought I was a better candidate than the other two, but they voted for her because they didn't want to go into a runoff, wanted it to have an outright victory against Ernest Bales. So once again, I want to thank the voters for going out and getting involved and making change. And this is very difficult to get Ernest Bales out of there, despite that his voting record and his actions are hurting House District 18. He still had this blind cult-like followers. And my goal, I told Janice Holt this, it's like we have to hit Ernest Bales and hit him hard. And what we need to do is make sure that the only people that vote for him are the wide-eyed, brainwashed cult followers. And it looks like that we've achieved that. I want to mention another race, the race against Dade Phelan, and we need to pray about this situation. In that race, you have Phelan, who's the Speaker of the House. Once again, he's a far-left Democrat running on the Republican ticket. And then you have the Trump-endorsed opponent, an establishment Republican named Covey. And then you have a more conservative candidate, this woman named Davis. But what's going on here is we need to keep our eyes on the prize. Dade Phelan really needs to go. And what Davis needs to be doing, she's putting all of her action in going against Covey. Now, she's been eliminated from the primary because you have the two top vote getters, which is Phelan and Covey. Now, my understanding is Covey got the majority of votes. It was like, 42 to 43, something like that. She got like 10%. But Covey got the most votes, and it's likely that Covey is going to win and defeat. But this is a race that went into runoff. But I was talking to Chip Darby, and he was saying he wished that Davis would run the campaign the way I did because it happened the equivalent, basically. Except in this race, even though Covey got the majority of votes, he didn't get over 50%. So this is going to go to runoff. It's going to be Covey versus Phelan. It's likely that Covey is going to win. But the problem with Davis is Davis needs to understand, yes, you're on the ticket, you need to campaign and try to win. But what we got to do is understand we need to remove Dade Phelan out of office. And what I did is, of course, I campaigned with my limited resources, wanting to win. But I kept my eyes on the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is removing Ernest Bales out of office. I accomplished that goal. And I decided not to attack. I criticized Janice Holt a little bit, but I wasn't focusing on attacking her because she's not as bad as Bales, and we need to get Bales out of there to stop hurting our county. Now, I was talking to Chip Darby again, and he was saying, well, maybe you should, because I had some success, I was well received, feel like I won the debates. People are saying good things about me based on my debate performance. And he's saying, well, what if Janice Holt doesn't follow through? What if she turns out to be a dud? What if she turns out to be not different from Ernest Bales, just another person doing the same thing? You should consider running again. Right now, I'm not considering running at all. Let's see what she does, and we'll see what happens. I think it's important that candidates should see themselves as servants of the people. We should be self-serving. If you win, somebody who is a legislator should see themselves, or anybody, they're doing public service, and they should represent what's right, do the right thing, but also represent the needs, the interests, and as much as possible, the views. You're a servant of the people. If they want legislation, if there's nothing immoral about it, they should give the people what they want, such as school vouchers. Ernest Bales is opposed to that, but I think we need educational reform. I understand people's concerns about that. There's some controversy. But I think that one of the biggest issues we have, problems we have in our country is education, how education is failing our children, and we need change. Now, this was a loss for me, even though some people look at it as like, well, you didn't have any money. You campaigned hard, you performed well, you ran a good campaign, and for someone with no deep pockets, getting 10% is, quite an accomplishment. And I do understand that. I did enjoy campaigning. I had good reactions to the people. I think everything went well. But I came up short, just 10%. But I think that the way it came down in the end is I played an important part. I think that I kind of wonder, would Janice Holt have been able to get 51% without my involvement? And this 60% that defeated Ernest Bales includes my voters. And once again, I really thank my voters for supporting me. God bless you. Just pray for me right now. I've been going through a lot of very difficult times, and discouragement. I faced a lot of personal trauma the past few years. A lot of people who were close to me passed away, and a lot of things are in my life through no fault of my own, just through some traumatic and terrible circumstances, are kind of in disarray and unstable right now. And even the church, we have a good core group. I pastor King of Saints in Cleveland, Texas, and we do have a core group here. It's a small church, but it seems to be doing well, thriving. But we have to make some repairs in our church facility, and we have enough money for now. We just need to pray that God would supply our needs, so that we continue to minister to our congregation, our fellowship, and into our community as well. So, what I'm going to do now, I just felt like after I lost, I did see it as a partial victory in that we defeated Ernest Bales. And I feel good about that. I also want to mention, if I haven't said this before, Ernest Bales is accusing me of vandalizing his signs. And I haven't vandalized his signs. I didn't ask anybody to encourage anybody to vandalize his signs. He's blaming me for it. He released a grainy photo saying it's me. It's not me. I didn't do it. And I've told Ernest Bales several times that I didn't do that. And as far as, that's going to be very disappointing for Ernest Bales. If I were him, he should have read the tea leaves and not ran at all and just announced that this is going to be his last term of office. So this defeat he brought upon himself. He is held accountable. He has been held accountable by his constituents for betraying his constituents, for working against the best interest of this community, for hurting this community through legislation. And I'll close with this, and one more comment. Ernest Bales surreptitiously introduced HB 4341, which empowered Colony Ridge. It granted benefits and privileges upon that mess and empowered it to grow to what it is now. And he secretly entered it into local and uncontested legislation. So it wasn't even brought up on the floor for debate. And it didn't belong in local and uncontested legislation. What is local and uncontested legislation? Well, I don't know. Building a new road, naming a post office, buying squad cars, building a fire department, just things that certain communities need, and they have to have legislation authorizing it, so they can, buy a new fire engine, get a new squad car, pave a road, build a new post office, stuff like that. So he introduced Colony Ridge into local and uncontested legislation. So it wasn't even, people didn't even know it was brought up. People who voted in favor of it probably had no idea what they were supporting. And why did Ernest Bales do that? Because he knew that this legislation was not in the best interest of our community. It's going to hurt our community, and that we as a community don't want it. So he sold us out. He betrayed us. And now he is being held accountable. Like I said, I've been going through difficult times. I feel like, quitting or withdrawing or just not being as active as I have been in the past. But what I need to do rather than that is to place faith in God and try to move forward, because we are in a very pivotal time in our country, and we should be very concerned. We cannot survive another 4 years of the Biden administration. Obama has not left office. We know he's pulling the strings. We can see that. We just had the so-called State of the Union thing, and Joe Biden the whole time was as high as a kite. The guy was tripping, and he's just saying the most horrible things, just so vindictive and inflammatory rhetoric and divisive statements, and is horrible. And he did say some things that, probably, I'm glad he'd said it. I tell people that every illegal alien that crosses the border is paying the drug cartel $10,000 a head. He's admitted it. He says $8,000. Well, what happens, you pay them $8,000, you get to the border, you're about to go across, and they shake you down for everything else. And if you can't pay it, they're going to extract it. You have to pay the cartel one way or the other. So you're in the United States, but you're still an indentured servant of the Mexican drug cartels until you pay them back what you owe them. And this is horrible. This is what the Democrat Party is doing to our country. So Biden also admitted, to talk about Laken Riley, and he mispronounces her name. And then he says, well, yes, she was killed by an illegal, but thousands of Americans are killed by illegal aliens. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care about us. All he cares about is his Marxist agenda and how to achieve a totalitarian police state. So we're in a crisis as a nation, and every American needs to stand up and do his patriotic duty to save our country from this destructive administration. This is the most important election in our nation's history. It's going to determine if America has a future or if our republic dies. I'm going to tell you something. I have said this. I'm not ashamed of it. Barack Obama has been in power this whole time. He's got a compound in D.C. where he's pulling the strings. And Joe Biden did not win the 2020 election. This is not a representative government. And there's so much voter fraud going on today. It's really horrible, and it's sad, and it's killing us as a country. We don't have a representative government right now with this man as the head of state. He's an extremist, and he's unfit for power, and he's not. He's a figurehead. The real power is in Barack Hussein Obama, who's a left-wing, he's a gay Islamo-Marxist, and he's trying to harm our country, and one way he's doing it is through the open border. So it's important for us to defeat this evil regime of Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden, and their ilk, and restore our nation back to the Constitution. And we need to have justice upon these evil people for what they did to our country. So now is the time not to be discouraged or to slink back. We need to be aggressive, stand up for our country, and fight. And I was really privileged this time to receive 10% of the vote. I appreciate every voter I have, and I want to thank my supporters who voted for Janice Holt. And like I said, we defeated Ernest Bales. We have needed change, and Janice Holt might be an establishment Republican, but she's much more of a Republican than Ernest Bales, who's a Democrat who runs, a liberal left-wing Democrat that runs on the Republican ticket. So this is a course correction, and like I said, I don't intend to run in the future, but hopefully, if Janice Holt lets us down, or she decides not to run in 2 years for whatever reason, we're going to have a conservative champion to stand up and fight for our community. So what I want you to do is to still be involved. And also, the scripture says, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal the land. We need to turn to God through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. That's the hope for our nation. I was talking to the editor of the Silsbee Bee today, and we're talking about how we repealed Roe versus Wade, thank God. But we need to be moving forward on the pro-life issue, and we're not doing enough. But he was saying it's like they threw the Bible and prayer out of school. It's like, well, if they could repeal Roe versus Wade, how come they can't repeal those disastrous decisions? And maybe they can. Maybe we can. Maybe we can restore our America as one nation under God again. So what I'm going to do right now, I don't know. It's been a very difficult time for me. I needed some me time. I took it. And it looks like I have a lot of difficulties and challenges facing me. It's been hard. Like I said, I lost a lot of loved ones. My father died. My stepmother died. My friend Penny died. And other people, members of our church. We lost like 10 members of our small congregation. It's devastating. And it's been difficult. And the hits keep on coming in me. But we have to stand fast and trust in the Lord that He is going to provide for us. And things are kind of short right now. But I'm going to trust in the Lord that He will bring salvation and deliverance for now. Let's trust in the Lord. And I have a lot to contribute, I think, and I need to get back to continue to advance the kingdom and fight for America. But just ask for your support and your prayers as we move forward. But please get involved and vote this election and be involved in the process. Voting the primary is very important, and we need to be concerned about this primary. And it looks like the stances that Davis has taken are correct, but we got to keep things in perspective. We have to get all the Democrats that claim they're Republicans but are not out of our party and get I mean, I'd rather have a moderate Republican than somebody like Ernest Bales and Dave Phelan, far left Democrats who are, what do they call it, secret sleeper agents destroying our party from within. So let's restore the Republican Party, and let's fight for America, and let's press onward towards victory. And once again, thank you for your support. This is a victory, and I feel like I contributed to this victory. Like I said, 60% of people voted against Ernest Bales, and this includes my voters. And thank you so much for supporting me, and I appreciate your kind words. And I'm sorry I kind of withdrew for a week after election, but I need to reflect on things and regroup. So hopefully that's what I'm doing right now, and I'll try to keep on putting more content out, I guess. I just pray for God's guidance and all these things. So thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.